Back in 2011, BMW teased us by bringing 741 Series M coupes to the US market. Ever since that taste of sport coupe greatness, we've been waiting for the company's follow-up act. It's finally here in the form of the M2. Here's a quick refresher: the 1 Series M. They couldn't exactly call it the M1 because the name already was applied to BMW's late 70s early 80s mid-engine supercar, started as a skunkworks project. BMW took the suspension bits from the E92 BMW M3 with the competition package and essentially bolted them into the 1 Series. This experiment resulted in the ultimate BMW. We fell hard for its smooth and torque-rich turbocharged 6, balanced handling, refinement, chassis rigidity, steering clarity, and adorably aggressive looks. It was like a greatest hits album, and then BMW took it away, discontinuing the car after a short, sweet honey run. Today's 1 Series M, the new M2, is the exact same formula as the 1 Series M, but done with newer BMW components. There's a lot of F82 BMW M4 under the skin of the new M2. Most of the aluminium suspension components, the limit slip differential, the brakes, and the forged 19-inch wheels are pulled from the M4. Of course, these parts don't quite fit into a regular 2 Series. So, the M2 has big, bulging front and rear fenders that effectively communicate that the car would very much like you the hell out of its way. Like the M4's, the M2's setup is very stiff, and it'll jiggle your flabby bits. Unlike the M4, you can't get electronically adjustable dampers to soften the blow. The M2 has its own conventional shocks and springs tuned specifically for that car. While the ride shakes us, there's not so much as a quiver from the structure. A plate added to the front end cinches the already tight 2 Series structure even tighter. In the canyons, the M2 has the same grip and feel as an M4. The tires aren't as wide as its big brothers. The M2 comes with Michelin Pilot Super Sports size 24535R19 in front and 26535R19 at the rear. The brakes are direct carryovers from the M4, though, and that means 4 piston calipers in front and 2 piston units in the rear, clamping iron rotors pinned to aluminium hats. Pedal bite is excellent and the brakes never feel taxed by the M2's speed. The M2's 6-speed manual slides into gear with short throws, and the box brilliantly matches engine revs on downshifts. A 7-speed dual-clutch automatic is optional, but we can't get enough of this 6-speed manual. For a stubborn tow believer, it takes a while to get used to not having to tap the throttle while braking for a corner. If you want to blip for yourself, the rev matching switch is off when you completely deactivate the stability control. Not that downshifting is entirely necessary. The M2's turbocharged 3.0-litre has able flattening thrust from about 2,000 revolutions per minute to the 7,000 revolutions per minute red line. An overboost feature bumps the torque peak from 343 lb-ft to 369, and the torque curve draws a wide plateau from 1450 to 4,750 revolutions per minute. Turbo response is immediate and the torque hits in a rush. An outgrowth of the N55 line of turbocharged lean sixes, the M2's 365 horsepower engine shares its pistons, crank bearings, and redlines mooching spirit with the M4's 425 horsepower S55 power plant. BMW claims the M2 with the manual transmissions will run to 60 miles per hour in 4.4 seconds, or a half second quicker than the last M235i manual we tested. Equipped with the optional dual-clutch 7-speed automatic with launch control, the sprint to 60 miles per hour takes 4.2 seconds according to BMW. We usually beat BMW's conservative numbers by a few tenths. For reference, in our hands a manual M4 hits 60 in 4.1 seconds, while the dual-clutch auto does the deed in 3.7 seconds. It's loud inside the M2. Reducing mass, rather than deadening sound, was clearly the priority here. BMW claims the manual M2 weighs 3,450 pounds, with the dual-clutch auto adding 55 pounds to the total. The wide tires sing over most surfaces, and synthetic engine noise throbs through the stereo speakers. Set the cruise at 80 miles per hour and there's a deep and ever-present hum in your ears. What we'd really like to hear is the turbine snarl of the M2's intrinsics under pressure, instead of the automotive equivalent of elevator music. Talk to me as in the M4, the information coming through the light steering is distant and faint. The effort is higher in sport mode, but there's no progressive rise in effort in this setting when turning into a corner. Too often the car is gripping hard, or worse yet, slipping, while the steering tells you nothing. It's best to ignore the paltry information coming through the steering wheel and trust in the chassis, as the handling is spectacular. It's both playful and secure, and the suspension veritably stitches the M2 to the road. And yet, more than once we found ourselves daydreaming about the perfectly weighted and honest steering of a Porsche Cayman. Inside the M2's cabin you find standard 2 Series fare, albeit dressed up with specific gauges and trimmed with a naked carbon fiber-like weave. There is some scratchy, shiny plastic between the seats, but it's mostly out of sight. The pre-production example we drove had us manually adjusting the seats and the fan speeds. Production versions will have power seats and automatic climate control. On long, windingesses, our thoughts wandered back to the late 1 Series M, the M2's predecessor. That little car still represents the best of BMW, a stand.